Hi, this is Adam Hecht. I wanted to give you my storyboard regarding the COVID-19 cases. So, what I wanted to do was look at as I live in Louisiana, I moved here about a year ago, and I wanted to look at the implications from Mardi Gras 2020 and its impact on COVID-19 in Louisiana. As you can see, there's several articles listed here on the introduction that all either implicate or accuse Mardi Gras as being a contributor to the spread of coronavirus within Louisiana. So if you look at the bottom right-hand quarter in particular, it's a CDC report that claimed Mardi Gras spread the coronavirus. At the top of the page, we have the quote from the report that said Louisiana experienced a temporarily high population density because of the influx of visitors during Mardi Gras, which increased the incidence more so than other states in the South. Which, understandably, Louisiana had a lot of cases. So looking at that, I wanted to assess and look at with the data provided. The questions I started to ask myself is, if this was the case, one, when would the symptoms have started to show following Mardi Gras? We know about the 2-week incubation period. We have Mardi Gras, which revolves around Fat Tuesday, which is the day before Ash Wednesday, is the culmination point for the Mardi Gras season. It starts in early January and then goes through. In this case, was the February 25th was Fat Tuesday, was Mardi Gras Day. So there's a whole season, but if you look at it, it's really 2 weeks beyond that 25. February 25th is what we're looking at. So the second question is, what other states would have been affected? Mardi Gras being a very big, nationally known event, internationally known, I would also say, we should, based off of the location, see impacts to other states. What would those indicators be? You would think if with New Orleans being the hub for Mardi Gras for Louisiana, that you would see it there, and then it would spread out throughout the rest of the state into surrounding states with increased numbers. Third, would there be a noticeable rise by parish, which kind of is what I was alluding to, is you would see it start around New Orleans and then move out, and then as you progress out, you would see the numbers start to taper off. The other downside to this or perspective on this is Mardi Gras is not just specifically or New Orleans specific. It's really a area. In fact, Mardi Gras started in Mississippi, so one would you have to consider that when you look at these numbers. And the other question too is, would the numbers just mirror the population density, right? As folks are going to really congregate within those more populated areas, would that mask the increase? And then after the number 4 is really after the initial rise in cases, would the numbers flatten out or continue to get worse? If everybody coming together, the assumption or the question being, you should see that spike, and then the rate of infection would taper off slightly. It would continue to rise as things continue to spread. But those are the initial questions we wanted that I went into this looking at, and I think there's others along the way, but it kind of framed out how I looked at the data. And really what I did was I started looking from big down to small. Big in this case being, starting at the national, moving down to the regional, and even just the area. So looking at the overview of the U.S., what I did was I looked at all the states and compared, looked at the timeline and the number of infections, and really kind of looking at the peak. So the top graph highlights the peak as from the data that we had, which is in April, and you could see that there are several, mostly northeastern states, and then you have Louisiana, although Florida is on there, and then not identified, but another peak, southern state of Texas, all of which are, Florida, Texas, Louisiana, all have very, especially in the winter months, appeal to northern states. So very very big on tourism and other things. Looking at the timeline below, um, wanted to highlight the Mardi Gras period, and then really the kind of that incubation, right? So we should see the incubation, and then really right around by the 15th of March, and really it should be a little bit before that, is when you would really see the COVID cases from Mardi Gras identified. And in this particular case, during those initial periods, we really didn't see anything. So I don't know that this graph tells a lot for that, but as we go down to more of the macro view for COVID within the Louisiana area, what I really wanted to do, again, take those numbers for the states, and the graph, the bar graph on top really kind of compares the states based off of population density and compared it to the amount of COVID cases, which you can see New York, California, larger states. In the list, and this is ranked by number of cases. But also, you do have New Jersey, Michigan, Pennsylvania, again, all northern states, and Louisiana is much further down the list, really coupled in there with the other two Gulf states as far as numbers of cases. So looking at it, I want to put a visual depiction, and of note, there is one issue on this map, and I don't know why it did it, but when I put the data in for this map, as opposed to another, this red dot for Jefferson County, Jefferson Parish, really should be below New Orleans, so the accuracy of this particular dot is not correct, and I'll show that on a later map. So. But I really wanted to look at the Gulf Coast region, map it out, and see if there was any spread out, starting from the larger number of cases and moving out. And really what it just highlighted to me based off of this is the population densities mirrored the number of cases. And in the bottom right, looking at the Mardi Gras timeline, all the way on the left, really starting there weren't any cases, and then once the post Mardi Gras period ended, there started to see some cases, and then really looking at the 21-day mark, looking at, are there any substantial increases, of which I didn't necessarily see any substantial increases across the states. And I focused on Louisiana, Mississippi, and Texas as Mississippi and Texas border Louisiana. In fact, many driving in Louisiana, you're just as likely to see a Texas license plate or a Mississippi license plate as you are Louisiana, based off of the culture of the region, familial ties, economic ties, being the oil industry, the petroleum industry. So there's a lot of, we'll call it cross-pollination amongst those three states. So you would think that there'd be some type of tie between those three, and that's what I was trying to capture. So looking at the Gulf Coast overview again, looking at this red mark right here, it really should be down kind of below the L and or below the O in New Orleans, and we'll see that on a later map. But looking at the numbers, you see a lot around New Orleans, which you would assume because the population density of the area. Additionally, Baton Rouge, as you get into East Baton Rouge, which is as you start talking about the state capital, a lot of a little bit of an increase, but not significant. But really, amongst the rest of the parishes or the counties of Louisiana, there's nothing significant as far as higher numbers. Even looking at Mississippi and over into Texas, the red dot over in Texas for Harris, which is Harris County, which is Houston. And again, not a lot of, there's nothing significant in that. I don't, based off of those numbers, you would think that'd be a higher population or higher density regardless. Looking at more of a micro view, we'll scale it down a little bit. This is a correct map in the upper left, which highlights again, population density with New Orleans itself, and then moving around it, the cases really spill out. In the upper right, I broke it down by parish or by county. So Jefferson Parish is just south. That's here just south of Louisiana, or of New Orleans. Orleans Parish has the most, and the title didn't depict here, but that's the most, which is in Orleans Parish. St. Tammany, which is actually where I live, is up to the north, and there's a lot of residents that work and that deal with New Orleans up on the north shore of Lake Pontchartrain, and then the Ascension and Lafayette. You start getting out a little bit for those, but really, the core, and East Baton Rouge, right? So really um, the top two being New Orleans, then you have Baton Rouge, and then you get some of the outlying counties or parishes that will depict that information. And then in the bottom, I did a timeline really to show the percentages and the increase, trying to note if there's a percentage, a notable percentage increase for the cases, and really trying to highlight that most probable time frame of when the symptoms would show. Really, that 3 weeks, that third week post Mardi Gras. And as you see, a 30% increase roughly by day, fairly steady. In fact, it goes along with the rest of the case increase. And the p-value of this line again is less than 0.0001. I mean, it's definitely statistically relevant. So nothing significant here as far as highlighting spikes based off of Mardi Gras. So here's another a more detailed look at that timeline, and the next couple frames will kind of show you that. I broke them out so you can see them in greater detail. And again, this highlights the key parishes or the counties. And again, you really, as you're talking about the top 10, if you will, most of those parishes are all in vicinity of Baton Rouge, New Orleans, and I would even argue out to St. Charles, which is out to the western side of Louisiana. In fact, a lot of folks from Texas go to St. Charles. So, and again, this is a kind of a more detailed look at the Louisiana area. And again, nothing significant really to focus on New Orleans as far as the number of cases. And you get out into the bigger areas as far as really sticking around Lake Pontchartrain, out to Baton Rouge, Lafayette, the major metropolitan, or the more of the major metropolitan areas will have the increased number of cases. So that was how I broke it out. But I think looking at the issues that I came up with during my analysis, the data here is more globally focused. So I think it was difficult to really focus on down to the level of detail that I really would have needed. I mean, yeah, we got down to the county and the state, but really getting down to what are those numbers by within the parishes, by the towns, or by the address, right? Being able to really show a little better heat map or some other type of statistic that really shows more of the micro view within Louisiana, how it was affected. The amount of data available was another issue too. I mean, really part of it was timing. With Mardi Gras being the first or the last week of February, and there really weren't any cases, a significant amount of cases, really during the first couple weeks of March. So it's hard to say, because things didn't start appearing until mid-March or so. So it's hard to say whether or not any of that information was accurate or was available. In addition to that, there's we'll talk about it for number 4, but you have the inaccurate tests, you have asymptomatic patients, you have lack of testing. All these things led to, as folks look at it now, they say, well, hey, maybe back in January I had coronavirus, so they weren't tested for it. It was masked as the flu. And then number 3, where I think is really interesting, and I think where it's difficult to nail the data down is the data relevancy. These numbers, as folks come in, a lot of them, especially, so if you look at Mardi Gras, 1.4 million people attend Mardi Gras annually. and then the metropolitan region from New Orleans is about 1.25 million. So you really double your debt. You double your population for a shorter period, which statistically you would think would increase the odds that you would spread. However, which a lot of those folks going back to other states, and with the incubation period, it's really hard to tell whether or not the spread was based off of, or if they took it back and it was counted in other numbers. So I really try to look at the local Louisiana population to see if within that population, as everybody comes together, if it spreads that way, if you would see that spread out from the as the epicenter would be the densely populated areas. The other issue with that is Louisianans and the culture that is down here. They always try to find a reason to get together anyway. So that being said, I mean, from the data that I viewed or how I put it together, and I think it was kind of difficult based off of what I was looking at. However, I don't think, even though the CDC said there was, I don't think there was a specific indication that Mardi Gras was a significant contributing factor to the spread of COVID-19. I think based off of having people together, yes, it increased the risk, but based off of the data that was there, it would have spread anyway. And other factors such as, just regular population density, cultural lifestyle habits, economic. I mean, there's ports, international ports in New Orleans, international airports. Just there's a lot of other factors that I think contributed to it. But I don't, based off of the data here, I don't think that Mardi Gras in this particular case was a significant contributing factor. So all that being said, I appreciate the time, and it was a great project, and really kind of forced me to look at it and try to look at this from several different lenses. Listed my references here, but I appreciate your time and look forward to any feedback you have. Thank you very much.